You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hey everyone, and welcome to Biz-Souls. I'm Rona.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen.
And today, we're talking about the future of work and employees and what they're all worried about in terms of upskilling and training and all that kind of stuff.
And they are worried.
They're very worried.
They're very, very worried.
Yeah,
they're worried about AI. So what was the source of
it? It was from the State of Work 2024 from Kahoots.com. And you have to say it like that, Kahoots.
Excellent. So 50... Yeah. What is it? 50% of the employees believe their skills will be obsolete in 5 years.
Yeah, and just so you know what the entire study was, they took 1,000 workers across like all different industries, from marketing to medical stuff, and everybody seems to think pretty much the same thing, and especially Gen Z. The 12 to 24, 12 to something like that. So
exactly.
Yeah, I'm really worried about those 12-year-olds, working their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. How is AI going to make a better peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
I'm just glad to see children back at work, get those kids back.
Of course, we need them to, help in those factories. making clothes. Wait, there are clothes
working 60-hour days.
That's funny.
Well, here's the thing, though. Look, first of all, if you're taking a passive approach to anything in work, they have a tendency to put you into a cog to do a task.
Right.
And management, it should really step up. And leadership should step up. And this, we've talked about it before. People want something they can really contribute to.
And that's to that point. There was like 90% of them said, I'd be willing to kind of go the extra mile and study a little bit or do, if people realize that what I do matters. And they're kind of mad that they're not recognized for whatever contribution that they have. And I get it. There's that hero leadership and things like that.
Correct.
It's like they just feel like they're cogs in a wheel. And so, training can help them, but
sure.
And most companies don't know how to do that.
Well, and exactly. And managers are going to have to change. They're going to have to start thinking in terms of not only how do I get the job done? How do I get the job and provide a learning experience for somebody? How do I help them, not just because that is what AI is going to do. It's going to replace a lot of the repetitive tasks that do now have multiple components in it. So before, a robot could do one thing. It could move here, fixed movements. Now, what they'll be able to do is they'll go here, and if it's out of alignment, they can straighten it up and put it back in alignment. And the same with writing. With AI and ChatGPT, it writes in a certain style, and then you
can train ChatGPT to write in your style.
Right, and that's what people are going to have
if
to do.
If you pay $20 a month.
I think part of the problem is things are moving so quickly, though, in the office and technology, that people think, if I learn this software, so it's approach. If I learn this software or learn, this, how to do something with this type of package or this type of app or application, that can be, it's going to change. Something new will come.
And that's why I think, soft skills, and I don't like the word soft skills because these are all necessary skills. I don't think AI will ever be super creative or that innovative, and that's that's why I think people need to realize that those type of skills and communication skills, listening skills, all those things will never change. AI can't cover those type of things.
See, and I disagree. I think it will be able to cover it, and I think AI is eventually going to be smarter than most humans because, first of all, it'll have a memory that's more secure. It's not learning the task; it's learning how to learn. Though that's what I think people need to do. They need to learn. It's the reason college was there. College wasn't about learning a specific thing. College was about learning to think And unfortunately, what we saw, during is that, real discussion, real dialogue hasn't been going on in colleges. People are taking positions. Instead of talking about the issues and learning to discuss the issues, they're taking a position. And if you take a position in work, then, it's the same thing. It's going to be a position can be replaced. A position can become nullified if technology moves around it, something like that.
Okay. I still think that there is a certain aspect of humanity that AI will never be able to grasp.
We'll never know. Let's see.
That's true. It'll be after our lifetime. Well, certainly yours.
Yeah.
And I just had a birthday.
Yes, happy birthday
Thank
to
you,
you, Rona.
thank you.
So now here's something specifically on training. Only about a third of employees believe that the company's training aligns with their career goals. And 36%, which is a little over a third, say the current programs lack relevance and real-world application.
Yeah, and I agree with this. I've worked with other companies who have asked me to use their information and impart it, and I've looked at it. I was like, I am so Rona-izing this because I'm falling asleep reading it, and you want to be able to make it interesting. That's why I use play,
Correct. And a big part of it, I think trainers and educators have to step up.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, it's funny being older now and looking at the new generation comes in. They think that it's, they're doing something new. And a lot of what they're doing is just repeated from before. Not only are they repeating the same type of training, the same method of training, they're telling the same stories. It's like they're just
bell bottoms versus boot cut jeans. Same thing. It's the same thing.
So we'll see about that.
They're still bell bottoms versus
exactly.
boot cut jeans.
Nearly half, 46% of employees find workplace training boring.
That's exactly what I said. They don't want to do it.
So what makes you bored? I mean, when I don't know, watching old movies, you watch old movies, they filmed them different and they filmed them longer and they still keep you engaged because they focused in on dialogue or expressions between them.
Okay.
The Apartment, I saw The Apartment a while ago and was with Jack Lemmon.
Okay.
And it was slow moving in terms of the way it went. It was still interesting because of the interaction between it. And I think if you just throw action, I think people have gotten lazy.
Absolutely. And they don't allow as much interaction, and when they do, it's kind of by rote, and there are companies that try to gamify to help learn and train, and it doesn't always work because gamification isn't always fun.
Well, so do you think it's a fear of the instructors of doing something non-political or not politically sensitive or something they're afraid of getting into a real...
Yes, I absolutely think that. I think they are afraid of going outside the proverbial box, which I hate. I'm cringing because I don't like that term. They're just afraid to do something different, that they will be seen as not following the crowd. They want to fit in as opposed to stand out.
So it's interesting. Is this like in the old days, people were, the best employees always seem to be the people that didn't care about getting fired. They're willing to do the right thing under the right conditions. And do you think that's gone away?
I don't know. Let me ask you this. You just went back to a big client again, and they asked you to work with them. So are you finding things different than you did?
Yes. Well, they're approaching it. Only the leadership on this one is changing things. So they're trying to upgrade and they're trying to take it to the next level. They want to revamp all their training. They want to look at it differently. They want to come up with different solutions.
So how are you? Are you willing to take a risk and say, hey, let's do it sideways, or let's look at it upside down?
Absolutely. And part of what they're doing to allow that is, I went through one of the trainings, so I which is really hard. Being a student, it's so much easier being a teacher sometimes because then they're running it. The time moves a lot slower.
It's our control issue.
And the instructor did a great job on stuff, and they were dynamic, and they were
was it
transparent.
interactive?
It was very interactive,
Was it
and they
fun?
had them working. Yes, and they were working on something specific, and I think that's a thing on boring. Boring is if they don't see an application for it, or they're not sure it's going to apply to them, or they're being lumped in, or everybody has to have this training, or everybody has to do, something. So you've got to look at the situation, the circumstances, and you've got to find a way to engage people and why they're taking it.
Absolutely. And I have heard from people in HR and managers who don't necessarily know how to do it. They do what I call game spaghetti, and they just throw a bunch of games against the wall, hoping that will get them engaged as the training goes on. And it doesn't work because they don't know exactly which ones and the why, and they don't ask the right questions of their people. You have more?
Yeah, I've got a couple more slides. So 35% of the people report limited opportunities for peer-to-peer learning, and additional
slow down just a touch.
35%. Did I slur that?
Yes,
did I
you
Californianize that? 35% report limited opportunities for peer-to-peer learning, and 53% report limited access to training mentors.
So people who are in higher positions need to be more open and willing to help. When I first started Playful Mind Project, I called the Small Business Association to get a mentor, to help me. He wasn't that helpful.
Right. Well,
and it was I was so disappointed, and he's like, "Well, do this and then call me." And I'm like, that's like the whole thing, So I needed hand holding, and he didn't.
Well, I think when people feel relaxed, they're more willing to help. And I'm wondering if fear is maybe the foundation for all these troubles. This fear that technology is going to replace them. So therefore, everybody is kind of like, playing with their own marbles, and they're not sharing with.
As opposed to losing your marbles.
Exactly. They're not sharing, and so maybe that's why people aren't helping people as much.
Maybe.
With mentoring and doing different things. What's interesting though is the internet. I mean, look at all the DIY. Do it yourself.
Yeah.
And all the training that's out there. There are people that are making a fair amount of money training.
Yeah.
We're looking at it, UGCs a little bit, User-generated content. How do you do that? How do you monetize that?
It's a lot of work, evidently.
There's a lot of work.
And I don't know how much return people get from it.
Well, and that's what you have to do is you have to take a chance. So there are people that will say, well, I don't do that, or I'm not going to do that. And everything's an opportunity to learn.
And if you've got nothing else going on, go right ahead. I encourage it.
Yeah, I mean, in college, the last year I was in college, I was working at this factory, and one of the things is they moved me around a lot. So I even got to drive the
because you sucked at all the jobs, and they couldn't find a place for you.
They kept looking for a place for me.
He's tall. He can reach to the top shelf. Let's let him use that instead of a ladder.
I get to put the ornament on the Christmas tree.
That's right. The star.
That's true. So, that fear, though, I'm wondering if that's what's driving it, or if companies just haven't shifted enough to understand that the work environment is different. It's kind of like people trying to force them back to work. It's kind of like if we make everything else the same, things will be the same, but they'll never be the same. People have a different attitude.
Right. Well, and they had different opportunities. And I think because things are changing so quickly, it's like a state of paralysis, because if you go left and AI takes us right, then I'm screwed.
Right.
So yes, to your point, I think that's what.
I'm just laughing. Even in your analogy, you have to bring up left and right. Oh. It's hilarious. We had to refilm this because we got a little comment in there, and now
I brought up politics. When
we redid it, I realized how we got into it.
I blame you.
Again. Yes, I blame myself. Anyway,
because right. I take every little kernel that I can to go off on my run. Anyway,
so
bottom line.
Tools? Bottom line for this is, I think there's a general boy, I can talk for a living. Here we are down in Dallas, Texas, and now what are we doing?
You see, now people in Dallas are going to get pissed off at you.
Exactly. So I think that there is a general fear with employees. I think there's a complaint. I think they're trying to force issues. So I think a lot of managers have taken the position you have to return to office, and I think that's a position. And I think that when you take a position in anything, instead of dealing with the real issue, I think there's trouble ahead. So I think it's going to be a little rocky with employees. It's also a great opportunity for learning.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think in this case, it has to be the kind of thing where you work a company from the bottom up as from the top down, because sometimes the top can't see what the bottom's doing and they don't get it. Like the C-level doesn't see what their employees are doing. What?
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing on the top, can't see what the bottom is doing. And I'm just kind of riffing in my head, and nothing came out really that was usable. Okay.
Anybody out there have a sense of humor? Come on, I need you.
We're working on it. All right, let's put a fork in it.
All right. That is it for us. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
This has been Biz-Souls.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.